Thank you for joining us in this Tuesday edition of Jamaica Magazine. Today we continue our Year in Review series by looking at the achievements of the Ministry of Water, Land, Environment and Climate Change in 2015. Welcome, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Also in today's program, we have a look at Jamaica's business process outsourcing sector and trod down memory lane as we revisit the 1907 earthquake. Up next is a timely message, followed by the news.
All the people then when I want Zig V, hold up your hand. Zig V in the Caribbean territory, but we now want that virus take set pan we. So make sure send us stagnant water inside and mash up all mosquito breed inside. More hole in the tin them where you dash way and change the water in your vase every day. No litter, dispose of your garbage proper. You know them the thing that we turn drain blacker. Tour your community and tour your yard for suppress mosquito. We have figure hard dash we all tire turn over drum pan for prevention is the greatest weapon. And special shout out to pregnant ladies. Protect yourselves and protect your babies. Draw for your zapper and your mosquito spray. If you do all that we can to keep them away. For we know what's in vain.
Good day, I'm Lorraine Mendez and this is your JIS News for Tuesday, January 19. The Ministry of Health is advising women to delay becoming pregnant for the next 6 to 12 months, given the possible link between Zika virus infection and a brain condition affecting newborn babies called microcephaly. Simone Wolfe has more in this report.
Microcephaly is an abnormal growth of the brain and stunting of the growth of the head of the fetus, arising from infection in the first months of pregnancy. Babies who develop microcephaly in the womb may not live to full term, may be born prematurely, may be stillborn, or may survive but with lifelong disability. Jamaica's South American neighbor, Brazil, has been reporting increased cases of the condition among babies whose mothers contracted the Zika virus. There is no absolute proof that Zika is in fact causing the microcephaly, but Health Minister Horace Daly says the evidence from Brazil and information from partners like the World Health Organization are strong enough to issue the advisory released yesterday. It asks women to delay getting pregnant for a while if possible, while those already pregnant are urged to take extra precaution to prevent being bitten by mosquitoes. Minister Daly says the local health authorities are trying to prevent any possible adverse outcome to pregnant women in Jamaica if and when the Zika virus is detected here. There have so far been no confirmed Zika cases in Jamaica, but given its proximity with cases in Haiti, Panama, and other regional countries, the Ministry of Health says a positive case in Jamaica is imminent. The ministry has heightened its alert and is scaling up its vector control activities. In the meantime, Minister Daly is calling on every citizen to take the necessary steps to rid their communities of the Aedes aegypti mosquito, which transmits the Zika virus. Simone Wolfe reporting for JIS News.
Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller says her administration is aggressively pursuing investment-led growth through physical and economic infrastructural development. She points to the North-South Highway, which is on track to be completed by March this year.
With this new highway, new opportunities for housing development, trade expansion, real estate and tourism investments will be opened up. I confidently predict that this investment will positively transform the tourism product of Kingston and the north coast of Jamaica.
She said government's economic reform program had laid the foundation for the island to move beyond debt management and pursue investment-led growth with a competitive and enabling business environment. The Prime Minister was also quick to point out that the social agenda was not ignored, evidenced by major investments in programs for vulnerable groups, health and education. Mrs. Simpson Miller was addressing the Jamaica Stock Exchange's Investments and the Capital Markets Conference, which began on Monday at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel. She used the conference to express pride at the Jamaica Stock Exchange being assessed as the best performing stock market for 2015.
I congratulate the Jamaica Stock Exchange on this signal achievement. This is undoubtedly one of the clearest signs that the Jamaican economy is improving.
The Director General of the World Trade Organization, Roberto Azevedo, has endorsed the government's Economic Reform Program, ERP. Ambassador Azevedo, who is in Jamaica on a two-day working visit, says the Economic Reform Program, which seeks to increase standard of living, is extremely important for a small island state such as Jamaica.
I think that trade facilitation is extremely important, particularly in island states like Jamaica, where interconnectivity is a problem, where the costs of trade is usually higher, lack of scale because of the size of the economy. So lowering the costs of doing trade is absolutely fundamental if you want to benefit from trade. And Jamaica is doing tremendous steps in that direction.
The WTO's Director General was speaking with Ian Boyne on JIS TV's current affairs program, Issues and Answers. The full interview may be seen this Sunday during Jamaica Magazine. In the meantime, the head of the World Trade Organization toured the Kingston container terminal on Monday and expressed his endorsement of Jamaica's shipping and logistics hub initiative. He said Jamaica was well positioned to be at the forefront of the global logistics and supply chain. Ambassador Azevedo pointed to Jamaica's geographical location, quality of its seaport facilities and infrastructure being upgraded, and said the country was set to benefit from increased transshipment and trade integration.
The work that is being done here is fantastic. There is a lot of things that other countries should be copying.
And finally, the Jamaica Constabulary Force will be renewing its efforts to enforce the Road Traffic Act and restore order in the public thoroughfare. Police Commissioner Dr. Carl Williams says the police are determined to arrest the increased numbers of fatal traffic crashes seen in 2015 and which has continued into 2016.
Far too many lives are being lost in motor vehicle crashes that result from careless driving. Within the next 2 weeks, I will be reassigning more than 100 additional policemen and women to work in the traffic division in order to heighten the presence of our police on our roadways across Jamaica.
In a press statement on Friday, Commissioner Williams appealed to motorists and pedestrians to exercise greater care in their use of our roadways and to show respect for fellow road users. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Lorraine Mendez. Thanks for watching.
Jamaica, among the top 10 most improved economies in the world. That's right. Our island's business environment has advanced to the extent that the World Bank has noticed. The multilateral agency has named Jamaica one of the most improved economies globally in which to do business in its newly released Doing Business Report 2016. This ranking is attributed to Jamaica's implementation of 4 major reforms over the past year. Investors have noticed too and are coming on board. So let's continue to work together to make Jamaica the place of choice to do business.
An increased focus on climate change while ensuring more Jamaicans owned a piece of jamrock were some of the major achievements of the Ministry of Water, Land, Environment and Climate Change in 2015. We recap the year that was.
Those were the main headlines that came out of the Ministry of Water, Land, Environment and Climate Change in 2015. Time now to get some details.
This administration realizes that water is a very empowering resource and that its impact on sustainable development, particularly in our rural communities, is without parallel.
In 2015, upgrading works was carried out on the Martha Brae treatment plant in Trelawney. A new $460 million water supply system served 6,000 residents in the Yorton and Mount Russell communities of St. Catherine. 8 kilometers of pipeline were laid for the Clarkstown Water Supply Pipeline Replacement Project. The Bogue Water Treatment Plant in northeast St. Ann was refurbished. A $3.9 million project was launched to protect the Yallas and Hope River watersheds. Work was completed on the Gutters Retirement Water Supply System in St. James at a cost of $26.3 million. And the National Water Commission signed a contract valued at $7.23 million to buy 50,000 solid-state water meters for the Kingston metropolitan area. An intense dry period also affected the island during the year, leading to scheduled water lock-offs for some NWC customers. But they got a break when the company instituted an amnesty, allowing them to clear up billions of dollars in arrears on their water bills. The National Land Agency issues more than 7,000 land titles between January and October 2015. 1,103 new lands registered between March and October. And there's more. In May, the government signed a memorandum of understanding with bauxite company Jamalco to provide land titles to over 1,500 persons on the company's resettlement program.
Resolving tenure issues affecting lands that Jamalco has acquired from landowners as far back as in the 1970s.
The National Land Agency received an $8.3 million state-of-the-art printing system to print maps, plans, and other large format documents for its customers. And a policy framework and procedures manual for the divestment of government-owned lands was launched. 2015 also delivered important environment and climate change headlines. Jamaica successfully phased out the use of a key ozone-depleting substance, hydrochlorofluorocarbon, in the foam manufacturing industry in 2015. The Jamaica Invasive Species Database was launched, making it the first comprehensive portal of its kind in the island. A $278.8 million deal was signed with American technology firm Environmental Systems Research Institute to provide ministries, departments, and agencies with unlimited access to the entity's suite of technology software. $5 million was provided to clean up and dispose of the sargassum seaweed negatively affecting Jamaican beaches and coastlines. The National Environment and Planning Agency entered into deals to protect the country's rich biodiversity and encourage environmental journalism. 3 locations were established as points of collection for electronic waste, e-waste. And 55 residents were trained and certified as environmental wardens under the Jamaica Social Investment Fund's Integrated Community Development Project. The Inter-American Development Bank's Climate Investment Fund gave the ministry $2 billion to mainstream climate change across the government. The IDB provided another $18 million to strengthen Jamaica's resilience to climate change. The country also received assistance funding from the Japanese government and a regional climate change resilience project. And ahead of the 2015 COP21 Paris Climate Change Conference of Parties held in December, the ministry hosted public consultations across the island to raise awareness among all Jamaicans. So those were the major stories coming out of the Ministry of Water, Land, Environment and Climate Change for 2015. By all accounts, it was a busy and productive year.
January is Earthquake Awareness Month. Here are some tips to guide you during an earthquake. Stay calm. Think through the consequences of any action you take. If you are inside, stay inside. Take cover under a heavy desk, table, or bench in a supported doorway or a corner. If you are in a high-rise building, get under a desk or similar heavy furniture. And if you are outdoors, stay outdoors. Just move away from buildings and utility wires. For this and other tips, contact the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, OPM, at 906-96745 or visit their website at odpem.org.jm.
As we continue to observe Earthquake Awareness Month, we take you down memory lane to the year 1907. An earthquake devastated Kingston, Jamaica. Approximately 1,000 people lost their lives while thousands more were made homeless. Come and explore this historical journey right now.
Air distilled,
Suspended animation. Moment transfixed. 3:30 p.m. Monday, January 14, 1907, etched invariably in history as the instant that Kingston was changed forever.
At 3 o'clock, God is going to speak. And then, of course, at 3:30, about 3:30, the earthquake struck. I saw this building before. Now this is what it looks like. This is what the quake did.
Kingston destroyed by earthquake. Let them know what had happened to their city, what had happened to the capital of Jamaica.
Just 3 days after the great earthquake of 1907 struck downtown Kingston, several news headlines painting desolate pictures of the city were being circulated in the international press.
Horror and gloom increase. Entire streets leveled and crowds of frightened, shrieking people.
The shock lasted nearly 36 seconds. Pillars of smoke rose in Harbour Street, and soon afterwards, flames shot into the sky.
In semi-darkness. 600 bodies recovered, only a few buildings left standing and not one safe.
The first headlines went out, without pictures of course, Kingston destroyed by earthquake and so on. Everybody was curious. Was it really destroyed? How badly damaged was it and so on? So that people were very curious to see what it looked like, and then the pictures started appearing.
Photography was essentially in its infancy in Jamaica at the turn of the 20th century. Even though several persons operated photography studios, the art form was not a well-developed genre. Photography was more or less a pastime, a way of creating keepsakes like postcards to send abroad to relatives and friends. Several images of 1907 were relayed to foreigners, utilities downed, scavengers in rubble, Kingstonians dazed at the fate which had befallen their city. Many of the more poignant depictions of Kingston circa January 14, 1907, therefore, remained outside of the city and Jamaica for decades.
It's what Jamaicans were sending out to the outside world that has survived. You know, there's really very little that has survived in Jamaica itself, except of course what the National Library has collected. But most of what I have collected has been literally searching the outside world for images. And I am amazed at how much has survived. I remember when I first saw my first photograph of the disaster, I said, oh my God, I wonder if any more exist.
Today, searches on the largest internet-based marketplace, eBay, yield an image of the 1907 Great Kingston earthquake for sale every day. The event is one of the most reported of its time and ranks highly on the list of the best photographed.
Disaster photography is a very special area. People are fascinated. They still are. Just think of 9/11 in the United States and all the images and the television images and so on of 9/11. People wanted to see what happened when those planes flew into the buildings. It was very similar. Jamaica was in the headlines.
Telegraph and postal services were limited by the disaster, and so the foreign media had to improvise when compiling pictures to accompany their breaking headlines. They commissioned artists to create their own impressions of what Kingston looked like in the wake of the earthquake. Jamaica, however, had its own assembly of photographers who captured several post-quake images and amazingly managed to develop and salvage the collection. There were Theophilus Duperley, grandson of the famous Adolphe Duperley, who printed lithographs of the 1831 Christmas Rebellion and the Emancipation celebrations in Kingston in 1836. H.J. Calm, E.E. Grant, better known for his tourism-related photographs, and John Clary.
Theophilus Duperley actually was at 85 King Street, which is about where the fire started on King Street. He was actually trapped in the wreckage of his building, you know, and to get away from the fire, he literally had to leave his right arm behind. As a consequence of that, obviously, you know, with the destruction of his property, the cameras and everything, there are very few photographs by Dupley, who was the most famous photographer.
However, Dr. Boxer has attributed most of the surviving quake photographs to John Cleary, perhaps the second most famous photographer of that era. Cleary had compiled an album with some 23 images of the destroyed city, and an additional 18 of his post-quake photographs are owned by the National Library. The exhibition's curator, however, votes E.E. Grant's photographs most emotive and interesting.
Well, I dare to make a difference, and I dare to take a stand. Let me dare to think of someone else who's in need of a helping hand.
The Office of the Children's Advocate is very aware that we have some parents who get particularly anxious at the start of a new school year. And so we really just wanted to share with you a few tips that you can utilize to help keep your children, especially the very young ones who are going out for the first time, nice and safe from sexual abuse. Parents need to recognize that the private parts, as we call them, or the genitalia, are regular parts of the body. And so in teaching your children about the forehead and the nose and the hand, you can also teach them the names of these body parts, because that does two things. It puts them in a position to speak about these parts when something is going wrong, and it also tells them that even though they're private parts, it's not too private to talk about, particularly with a parent. Children need to know that there should be no secrets between them and their parents or guardians. Oftentimes, when persons want to abuse children, they tend to encourage them to keep a little secret. You know, this is between me and you. But from very early, parents need to establish with their children that the lines of communication are open. Mommy and daddy, or auntie and uncle, or whoever is the responsible adult in that child's life, can actually have a discussion, age appropriate of course, about anything at all that may be troubling the child. The third tip is that parents need to cultivate throughout the child's lifespan that environment whereby the child feels comfortable to speak. Conversation should not be off limit, topics should not be taboo, and you really need to get to a stage whereby you have teachable moments, we call them. So we see a lot of things reported in the newspapers, sometimes on the nightly news, and we can use some of these instances of horrible things that are happening to other children to start little discussions with our own children to give them tips as to how they can avoid or prevent, perhaps completely, any such reality happening to them. For these tips, and of course any other information that deals with children, that is anyone under 18 years, please feel free to contact the Office of the Children's Advocate. We're at 72 Harbour Street, downtown Kingston, and our numbers are 948-1134, or website www.oca.gov.jm.
Well, I dare to make a difference, and I dare to take a stand. Let me dare to think of someone else who's in need of a helping hand. But if I dare, we want a productive Jamaica. We are not productive Jamaicans. Productivity to move forward on this land. Productivity, that's the way to go, we should understand. Productivity is the way to go for all us Jamaicans. Small business, big business, old and young, we are tell every woman and man. We want growth and prosperity for a better nation with a building plan. So we can build our product and sell our product and put more money in our hand. Our economy can rise to a level and build a better nation. Productivity to move forward on this land. Productivity, that's the way to go, we should understand. Productivity to move forward on this land. Productivity, that's the way to go, we should understand. Productivity.
Productivity, Pathway to Prosperity. A message brought to you by the Jamaica Productivity Center, a department of the Ministry of Labour and Social Security.
The business process outsourcing sector has been on the rise, seeing many Jamaicans getting employment at call centers and at other third-party service providers. Let's learn more.
When the government speaks of job creation, an industry that should readily come to mind is business process outsourcing, BPO. This thriving sector is experiencing double-digit growth and, according to JAMPRO, could create 15,000 new jobs within the next 5 years. So government has been using BPO as a conduit for achieving the strategic priority of job creation and economic growth with positive results. Business process outsourcing, or BPO, involves engaging a third-party service provider to do specific business functions. This means companies overseas can hire local entities to handle certain aspects of their business, such as customer service call centers. Other functions include general office operations like accounting and human resource management. Jamaica has a competitive edge in this sector due to its geographic location, the ability of nationals to speak English, and the educational qualifications of citizens. Within the past few years, government has been capitalizing on this to formalize the sector. The main point of support comes from the Ministries of Technology, Industry and Education, collaborating with the private sector representative group, the Business Process Industry Association of Jamaica, BPIAJ. Members of the BPO industry benefit from several incentives under the free zone regime, including income tax relief on profit earnings and duty-free importation of machinery and tools used in their operations, such as computers. There is also direct monetary support, such as the Development Bank of Jamaica's commitment of $23 million in loan to the ICT and BPO sectors this fiscal year. All these interventions have supported the current environment of about 40 BPO companies operating in Jamaica. These entities account for approximately 14,000 jobs, but government's goal is to add hundreds more as part of the strategic priority for economic growth. In October 2014, a $195,000 contract was signed to roll out new business process outsourcing BPO facilities in Montego Bay. A month prior to that, $6 million was invested in the construction of a BPO facility in Portmore, St. Catherine. Both of these private sector-driven developments represent the latest result of government supportive policies to encourage an expanded BPO sector in Jamaica.
The commitment is there from the government in all the areas that needs to be addressed as we move forward to ensure that the sector not only remain alive but thrive and is sustainable going forward.
As evidenced by the Mobay and Portmore developments, government is well on its way to achieving its BPO goals. The contract between the BPIAJ and Columbus Business Solutions means the creation of an incubator for business operators who wish to operate from the Montego Bay Free Zone. The incubator, which is slated to become fully operational by December 2014, is designed to fast-track the entry of new BPO companies, providing hundreds of jobs. As for the 40,000 square foot BPO facility in Portmore, it's expected to provide thousands of jobs during the construction phase, while another 550 persons are estimated to be employed during the startup phase.
Space has been our major failing, and the space is not going to be provided by the government. My view is that you can create 3 million square feet of office space tomorrow, and they will be filled. But it requires from entrepreneurs that element of risk.
Jamaica and the business process outsourcing sector, a partnership that's poised to make the island the outsourcing hub of the Caribbean, a partnership that supports government's strategic priority for job creation and economic growth.
This is the Aedes aegypti mosquito that spreads the Zika, chikungunya, and dengue viruses. Protect yourself from the bite of this mosquito. A message from the Ministry of Health, sponsored by the NHF.
Well, that's how we close the pages of our magazine for today. Thank you for viewing the pages with us, and remember to keep informed through our website at jis.gov.jm. Have comments or queries? Drop us a line at jamaicamagazine@jis.gov.jm, and keep the link on social media through our Facebook page and YouTube channel. This has been Jamaica Magazine. Until next time, I'm Adrian Atkinson, wishing you a wonderful evening.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.